All right, let's get into it.
Well, for the listeners, it's Friday.
It is.
Do you have any actual knowledge of what day of the week it is?
I have no idea. I don't know what week it is. I don't know what month it is. I have no idea at this point.
Know where you are.
No, almost. I believe I'm at the Warfighter Tobacco Studios in beautiful San Antonio, Texas, and welcome to the Warfighter Tobacco Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We're here for another episode of, I don't even want to say knowledge anymore.
No, yeah.
But I mean, there might be. You might learn something from it. You might not.
You'll definitely learn what not to do in life.
I mean, yeah.
Those are lessons as well.
We should do it to just spin off a whole nother podcast, but like what not to do in life.
Mistakes we've made.
And that's it. And it's just don't do this.
Yeah.
Don't do this. We tried this and this is what happened. Don't do this either.
So the reason I was seeing if you knew what day of the week it was is you just got back from another trip.
Yeah. And I'm about to go on another trip.
Yeah.
It's nuts right now.
So,
I did. I was down at Key West over this past weekend. And I was down there with some friends of ours, hanging out. We haven't got the opportunity to hang out with them for a while now. They've been really busy. We've been really busy.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of was a super last minute trip. I think he sent me a message on Wednesday and was like, "Hey man, you want to come down to Key West and fish and hang out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what are you thinking?" And he's like, "Saturday." I was like, "What?" I was like, "Well, let me check my schedule and let me look at flights." And flights were actually unbelievably reasonable.
Yeah.
And didn't really have much on the books other than trying to recover from being in Honduras the week before.
Yeah.
So I was just like, you know what? I might as well. So flew down there Saturday, hung out, I think, until Tuesday. I came back on Tuesday. And we did a lot of fishing. Caught a couple fish, but we fished a lot.
Yeah. That's why it's called fishing and not
catching. Exactly. And we were fishing after one of the hardest fish to catch. And we were fishing for tarpon, which are, I mean, beautiful fish. And it's a hell of a fight. But they're smart. Their mouths are like chiseled out of rock. So it's not like the hook is, like getting in like a normal fish.
Right.
It's just barely holding on by like the tip of the hook. And, if it jumps or, it just decides, hey, I don't like this anymore, it can just spit it out and that's it. Call it a day. So we ended up we were 0 for 13.
Wow.
Yeah. We almost got one to the boat and it decided, no, I don't like this, and spit the hook out. Like I was all on video. There's tension on the rod. We did everything exactly how it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And the fish just didn't want to play the game that night.
Yeah.
But we were fishing at night. We were fishing the tide changes underneath the Bahia Honda Bridge. And it was a full moon. So it was like the perfect storm, to fish. And so what surprised me is we caught all kinds of other fish that I never would have thought we would have caught.
Yeah.
And we hooked up with some tarpon, but there's a big difference between getting any other fish and when you have a tarpon on the line. Right. But we caught a permit fish, which I've never even heard of or seen before. And this thing was a monster. And it's just crazy to see, because where there's tarpon, there's sharks, because sharks eat tarpon.
Okay.
And tarpon don't usually hang out in a certain area. So when they do, the sharks are like, ooh, not only is this mealtime, this is a good meal. This is, upwards of 150-pound meal.
Right.
Or normally they're, it's hard to get fish that big and, concentrated in one little spot. And, so you have tarpon, which are, aggressive feeders. So you have sharks, which are aggressive feeders. And we caught blues. We caught that permit fish. We caught a baby Goliath grouper, which is funny because it was still like 3 feet long,
yeah.
But it was a baby. A mangrove snapper, which is like, that dude was the most beastly mangrove snapper I've ever seen in my entire life. If it's hanging out under that bridge with all those other aggressive fish, like that thing must have just swam around with his ball just hanging behind him. But yeah, I mean, like, so it wasn't like we didn't get anything, but
Right.
the one fish that we were going after, you know, they're just hard to get.
Yeah.
You know, we gave an honest effort. We learned a lot. It was their first time fishing that area in those environmentals, if you want to call it that time, that full moon at night, you know, playing the tide changes and all that kind of stuff. But it was really cool. Like, it was where the Atlantic and the Gulf came together.
Okay.
So that bridge, underneath that bridge, on one side of it is just open to the Atlantic Ocean. On the other side is just open to the Gulf.
Right.
And so when the tides are going one way, all the Gulf is trying to dump into the Atlantic. And then it completely changes 180-degree direction, and the Atlantic tries to dump into the Gulf.
Right.
But we got to sit there in the boat when that change happened. And it was pretty cool because, like, you could drop something in the water and it would just, and you could watch it.
Yeah.
You know, you drop your bait and the tide just takes your bait underneath the bridge, and you're like, oh, this is easy. I don't even have to cast. Like,
So you were talking about the trolling motor that kept you in place.
oh yeah,
So was that like a 50 horsepower?
it was just an electric trolling motor.
Yeah.
It was a GPS based trolling motor,
Yeah.
and it was cool. We got it down. Like, we worked. It took us about getting on 2 fish for. We had, what did we have? We had 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 5 of us on the boat, and it took about 2 fish for us to figure out who's doing what and where. Because when you get a tarpon, you don't reel it to the boat.
Right.
You bring the boat to the fish. Like, you have to chase this thing, especially on a bridge, because it's going to try to go in and out. And,
Yeah.
you know, as soon as it goes through the pylons on the bridge, like, that's it.
Yeah.
The line's going to break. It's going to rub against that concrete,
Right.
you know? And so as soon as you hook up, you got to figure out where that fish is, where it's going, and you got to get that boat either, you know, through the bridge to the other side and try to get the fish away from the structure, you know, or whatever. But we're fishing on the essentially upstream side of the bridge. So the current and the tide is going through the bridge, and we're on the upstream side of it.
Right.
So when that fish hooks up, it's going to go the other way. So we have to turn around, go underneath the bridge, and then, you know, chase the fish around over there. So the GPS trolling motor is essentially anchoring that boat out on that other side of the bridge, and it just holds it in place.
Right.
And it doesn't matter how the boat turns or whatever, that trolling motor is going to stay right there. Even if the boat pivots all the way around it, it's not going anywhere.
Right.
It is so cool.
Yeah.
Because it's so much easier. Like, if you had an anchor,
Oh yeah.
you'd have to pull forward, get that anchor up, and then figure out what's going on. So you wasted a couple minutes at least,
Yeah.
you know, before you can start chasing that fish. So the way that we figured it out is so that trolling motor's anchored. As soon as somebody hooks up, they just scream fish on.
Yeah.
And then it's just like controlled chaos for like 5 minutes.
Right.
You know, somebody would run up immediately and pull the trolling motor up. You know, captain of the boat would start the engines. You know, we'd have to do a little loop to turn around, and, you know, and then go back through the bridge the other way. All the other rods had to get pulled in and put up. We had to clear one side of the boat so whoever was on the fish could make their way to the front,
Right.
so we could, you know. But yeah, so the first couple of times we figured, you know, by the time we turned around and everything, that fish decided where it wanted to go, and we were kind of screwed. So after that, we'd pull the trolling motor, we just back up right through the bridge, and then we'd turn around, because then at least we're away from the structure.
Right.
The second night, it got a little dicey because we had a west wind. We had a north wind, and the bridge ran east to west. It's weird how you picture it, because you think it should be, you know, but it, and so all the waves were coming over the stern of the boat, the back of the boat. And so when we back up, we get these 3-4 foot waves coming through the bridge that are breaking, you know, we were back there fishing. It was awesome. But yeah, it was super cool. And then in the slack tide, in between the tide changes, the water just stops. And it's literally like somebody hit a pause button, right? And all the stuff's moving, you know, whatever. And then the tide changes and everything, like, you drop your bait and you drop it and it just sits there. It doesn't move left or right an inch.
Wow.
And I mean, I can't even fathom how many hundreds of millions or billions of gallons of water are moving underneath that bridge at one moment.
Yeah.
And everything just stops. And then all of a sudden it just starts going the other way. And it's like, this is so cool. But yeah, we had a great time. That was my first time down in Key West.
Yeah.
So we walked Duval Street, one evening. It wasn't even late at night, so we didn't get to see all the debauchery that happens there.
The shenanigans.
But and it was weird too because there's a lot of like outside bars.
Yeah.
And so like Hog's Breath Saloon is like one of the most famous bars on Duval Street. And I was like, I need to go there. You know, just want to have a drink, maybe get a t-shirt, call it a day. We walk up to it. There's a big sign over front, no cigar smoking. I was like, well, not going to this place. But it was quite common down there. And then they had all the little pop-up cigar shops all along the strip.
Yeah.
That are, you know, it's like, oh, it's a cigar shop. You want to go in there? And I'm like, no, I don't at all, actually. It's all tourist.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so. Tourist pricing, tourist selection, all that kind of stuff. But it was still awesome. It was fun. We had a great trip. The boat that we were on, it was a brand new boat. And it was a smoking boat, which previously fishing with these guys, it was a non-smoking boat, mainly because we're going like 40, 50 miles offshore.
Yeah. If
something happens because of a cigar, I don't want to be the reason why we have to get rescued, you know? But so we went, the furthest we went probably, I don't know, 7, 8 miles offshore. And then we were fishing under the bridge by Structure. You know, we kind of did a little bit of everything. We did some trolling. We did some you know, bottom fishing. Yeah, it was really cool.
Cool.
But trying to think of anything else that's fun and interesting that happened on that trip other than fishing. I was there for like 54 hours and we spent like 22 hours on the water. Nice. It was a lot. It was good. It's still last night when I got in the shower. I put my head under it, closed my eyes, and I was just like, oh, still. I'm like, this is weird. Still felt like I was on a boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then tomorrow we have the Total Archery Challenge.
Yeah, at Natural Bridge Caverns, San Antonio. That's going to be awesome.
Neither one of us has really shot our bow in the last, I don't know.
6 months at least. No, we shot yesterday.
Yeah, we shot yesterday. But before that, I've slung a couple arrows since then.
Probably once every 4 months, I'll go sling like 3 or 5 arrows at 20 yards.
Yeah.
I'm like, I still remember how to do this. And I put it up and I don't touch it again.
For me, it was about once every month I'd shoot a handful of arrows. But yeah, we got you kind of ready to go.
I got mine dialed in.
Go for range.
Hopefully.
So, filmed a little skit that should be coming out here pretty soon. So, yeah. And then Saturday, you take off to Florida again.
Saturday I go back down to Florida. Business and pleasure on this one. We got some business stuff to take care of. There's a couple shops and a online cigar guy. I don't know if you want to call him reviewer or just content creator, for lack of better words. Going to link up with them. Then we got some really cool new fun stuff that we're doing that I get to finalize while we're down there, make sure everything's getting done the right way. And then I get a little bit of family time while I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. What else we got going on? Oh, most of you guys have listened to the Warfighter Eric episode, and Warfighter Eric is no longer Warfighter Eric. He's just Eric. Now he found a new job opportunity outside the cigar industry. He's a good sales guy. He's an on-the-road, good sales guy. We were happy to have him. Mm-hmm. He opened a lot of new accounts for us. I think most of the retailers really enjoyed Eric.
Yeah.
But he got a job, I think, in like a tool company for the oil industry.
Yeah, oil and gas in Texas.
So
they steal everybody.
He's got a good opportunity. So we wish him the best. Yeah. In the meantime, if you're trying to get a hold of Eric to place an order or anything, just divert that call over to the home line or John or I's or Dave's and we'll get you taken care of.
Absolutely.
You might be seeing a little bit of me and John out on the road to cover down.
Yep.
So we'll see how that goes. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't on bad terms or anything like that.
No. I'm just really glad that some other cigar company didn't snag him up. That would have upset me a little bit. But,
there'd have been some black ops.
Yeah. So, wish him the best, and we'll figure it out from here. So,
Yep.
what else we got? Justin, you got any questions for us?
We do, I think.
We do have some questions coming in from the listeners. First one comes in from Bryce. He says, do you have a preferred cut on a cigar or a preferred cut on a certain cigar?
Yes and yes. I've gone kind of back to the straight cut for traditional round cigars.
Yep.
And then for torpedoes, I still will go out of my way to get a V cut on that because it's just, I feel like that's the best way to smoke a V cut,
right?
Or a torpedo. So
I agreed with you. And even though you said V cut, I knew what you meant.
Punches, I don't use very often. Maybe once in a blue moon.
I'd almost rather use my teeth or my fingernails instead of a punch.
I don't mind. If you have the right size punch hole, like we have those Calibri ones that have the 3 different sizes, and those work pretty well. I prefer the bigger.
Yeah. It just has to be super sharp.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. If you get these cheap punches, they
like the keychain punches.
Yeah, they kind of fuck shit up.
Yeah.
So,
and your cigar has to be maintained like almost perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a little dry or anything like that,
instead of cutting it, you'll crush it.
Yeah, you get or crack the cap or something. You got more of a chance of damaging a cigar with a punch, especially if you're not quite sure how it works.
Yeah.
Like the biggest misconception with a punch is you just stick it in, pull it out. You got to put gentle pressure and twist in almost a perfect circle as you're doing it in order to get through that cap of the cigar. I got an iguana when I was in Key West with
you got one, huh?
with a pellet gun.
Yeah,
I got one.
Are they like?
They're an invasive. Wow, thank you. They're an invasive species. That was harder than it should have been to say. And they're like everywhere. It's insane. And
and did you see all the chickens?
Oh my God.
So
it's an island thing though.
The chickens run wild and they're like very exotic looking chickens.
And they claim territory. Like there's a gas station that we were running a fuel caddy back and forth to fill the boat. Yeah. And there was a rooster that was like, this is my gas station, bro. Like, and you get up close to a pump and it would like come around the corner and like bow up at you. And it's like, dude, you really want to do this? Yeah, they were everywhere.
Yeah. On the base, they're really bad because nobody can fuck with them on the military base.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just did a quick Google search for iguana population Florida, and apparently there are well over several 100,000 iguanas in Florida.
Yeah.
Which is
crazy. They destroy habitats. The biggest thing that would annoy me.
What do they do that destroys the habitat?
It's kind of like the easiest way that I can explain it is with like reef fish. If you put an invasive species of fish in a reef, it will eat the food sources, it will attack other animals, it will do all these other things that disrupt that ecosystem to the point where other members of the ecosystem can't survive anymore and they just die off. And it's similar with iguanas. Plus, they just have natural things that they eat.
But they eat bugs and like fruit, right?
Yeah, and then they poop all over the place, and that's what for me. If I lived there, I'd walk out and there'd be like shit all over the backyard from iguanas. I'm like, I'm killing all of you. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they were all over the place, and they're big. It's not like the little ones are like this big that are cute. No, these things are like 3-4 feet long. You know, yeah. But yeah, so I got one. I was hoping that we would have had time where we could just like cruise up and down the canals with the BB guns and just shoot them off the banks. But we just had a very, very full agenda schedule and didn't really have time to do that. So when we got back, the last day we brought the boat back and they dropped me off so I could go because they have a boat lift.
Right.
And so there's like a main power switch on the boat lift. And because the boat wasn't there the whole time, we took the boat out and went back and forth to it. That main power switch is off. So when we got back, we just nosed up to the the side of the canal, dropped me off. I went and turned all the main power on. So I ran over, I turned the main power on, I turned around and I made eye contact with this iguana, and I'm like, "Oh, buddy," and I knew where the pellet gun was inside. So I ran inside, and it started to like go the other way. And I grabbed this pellet gun and the extra little, pellets. And I came back out and it saw me and it was like, shit. And it like took off down the edge of the canal. And so it jumped up underneath this little bush. And so as I went to go pull up to take a shot at it, they just turned the boat around. They're coming back over. So all they saw me do is take like 3 steps, drop a knee, and whack. And they were like, what the hell? I'm like, sorry, it's a big ass iguana. And they're like, hell yeah.
I'm going to pull up a picture that I think if I can find it, Darren sent me because my boy lives in Key West. And he's sent me some pictures of some pretty huge iguanas that I don't know if he knew that you could just shoot them. Well, I guess I don't know.
It's encouraged.
Yeah.
Like the neighbor was like, because obviously, what do you do with it after you do it? You throw it in the canal because it's this circle of life. You know what I mean? So we tossed it in the canal. Like 5 minutes later, it's gone. Something came by and ate it. Yeah. But yeah, so I took a picture in comparison to a Gatorade bottle. So if you're watching this, Justin should be able to put that picture up. And I mean, it wasn't the biggest one, but it was a good size one. What are you smoking on?
Night shift.
Nice.
Yeah, you?
50 Field Maduro in Toro. It's delicious with this coffee.
Nice.
Not even having whiskey today. It's
early. And we're actually recording 2 podcasts today. So tonight, I think we may do a little drinking because we have a guest.
We do.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun one. So.
But I don't know which episode's coming out first. So it's either, okay, so the guest will be it'll be after next week, after you listen to this one.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah.
But yeah, that'll be a fun one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we got to get up early tomorrow and go shooting that archery match. So, I haven't shot in a match without a hangover ever. So I may see how that pans out again.
Well, then again, we are drinking tonight. So
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
How do those archery events work? Is it the same that I tagged along with you two? You just go to the different stages.
Yeah.
And if you hit it, you pass the stage.
Well, like you can keep score.
Yeah.
I don't. I just am trying to improve my archery, and so you walk from. I don't know. We'll probably walk 4 or 5 miles tomorrow.
Well, it's like golf, right? Lowest score wins.
Well, if I don't keep score, then I don't know. Yeah. So
I don't keep score either when I play golf. So.
My pencil, it doesn't write numbers that high.
Yeah.
So I just
there's only a block for a single digit number.
Well, yesterday when we were searching, because there were a few arrows that went a little awry, I was like, oh, this is just like when I play golf and I have to go walk around in the woods to find my ball. Yeah. I know this feeling.
Yeah. I feel like it's easier to find a ball though.
I mean,
for the most part,
Scott's got those light up.
The knocks.
Yeah. I was like, that's handy.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. I only have 2 of those, so I have a feeling they won't make it the whole day.
So I got sent this pretty interesting certificate of valor that I acquired in December of 2003.
So you acquired, like you stole valor?
No, like it was given to me, but I never maintained possession of it, and I was just sent a picture of it 21 years later.
Okay.
But in December 2003, we were deployed overseas, except for about 8 days of that, I got mid-tour leave.
Okay.
On those 8 days, I ended up going back to Arizona, and then I went to Vegas for like 3 or 4 days, and then flew from Vegas back to Iraq.
Okay.
So this is a certificate of valor from Hackett Bungee, Las Vegas. And this bungee tower you can still see it at Circus, but it is no longer operational. It got shut down because of safety reasons. But so this reads, whereas the crew of the AJ Hackett Bungee has empowered to certify that me has joined the Bungee Fellowship of Worldwide Thrill Seekers and courageously and successfully leaping from atop a 17-story, 171-foot tower secured by a bungee cord. But it was funny. I was like, oh, yeah, I remember doing this. I'm like, that was one of the stupidest things I ever did in my life. Yep. But yeah, it was a whole
Nice.
It's pretty funny.
What's the definition of valor? We'll see what Justin has for us, because I don't know if bungee jumping meets that.
I know, right?
Criteria.
Great courage in the face of danger, especially in battle.
I got most of it, I guess.
Yeah, minus that last part.
Yeah.
There's a comma there. You can just end the sentence there.
Looking back, I mean, at the time it was awesome. It was fun. It was a great time.
I'm sure you were battling something at the time.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Like if something happens, I don't have to go back to Iraq.
You're maybe battling a bottle of booze or.
Yeah. I don't think I slept that entire 3 or 4 days I was in Vegas.
Yeah.
The whole time it was just a party until I had to get on the flight,
Yeah.
and then it was a miserable 18-hour travel time
Yeah.
to get back overseas. Yeah, that was brutal. It was fun though.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
Going back to mid-tour leave, right? I was very envious of all the single guys because they could go do fun shit, right?
yep,
Like mid-tour leave when you're married and you have kids.
you just go home and work.
No, you go home and then literally a week later you're saying goodbye again.
That's true.
It's not cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I don't even remember what I did. Oh, I think I rented a motorcycle
yeah.
and then that was the most adventurous thing I did.
I was dating somebody at the time, and so it kind of was like that.
Yeah.
But then, when I got back from deployment, after we were done, I went to Mexico for spring break.
Yeah.
And I went there with a girlfriend, and I came home with an ex-girlfriend in the passenger seat. So, and I still didn't think anything was wrong with me.
How was that drive?
I'd have got her a plane ticket.
There isn't any places to fly. It's a drive-only type place. The drive was great, actually, because I got pulled over 3 times on the way home. And the whole time I'm in board shorts, a straw cowboy hat, and flip-flops. I don't even think I brought a shirt with me. And I'm just back from Iraq,
Yeah.
so I'm just in the best shape of my life,
Yeah.
So I get pulled over in Mexico as we had 4 people with us that came, 4 total that came down in my truck. And so we stopped at a pharmacia because somebody needed to get something, whatever. And I double parked just to let them out.
Yeah.
And immediately cop pulled up behind me, lights and everything. I'm like, motherfucker, I don't speak Spanish. So I'm just and so they're trying to talk to me in Spanish, and I'm trying to talk to them in English, and none of it's all working out.
And there's no translator.
There's
apps
none
there.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right. So finally I was just you know what? I'm like, I don't know if this is a get out of jail free card in Mexico, but I'm going to try it anyways. And I grabbed my leave form and my military ID, and I just handed it to them, and they looked at it, and the guy went back to his car, and he came back almost immediately and just threw everything in my lap, said something about a ride on the beach with 100 people, and they got in their car and they left. And I was just like, awesome. So the cops were leaving as they were coming out of the fire, and they're like, what just happened? And I'm like, oh, this is a great story. So we all get on the road. We start driving. We get across the border, get through the checkpoint, across the border. And maybe 20 minutes after that, I get pulled over for speeding. Surprise. So I get pulled over for speeding. Same. I'm in board shorts, straw cowboy hat, flip-flops. And so the guy's like, do you know why I pulled you over? And I'm like, no idea. And he's like, you were speeding. I'm like, oh, sorry. I knew I was speeding.
Yeah.
And he's like, do you have any drugs or alcohol in the vehicle? Well, I was like, I know we don't have any drugs. I'm active duty military. I'm like, I know we don't have any drugs. I was like, but we just spent 5 days in Rocky Point, Mexico. Can I look to see if there's booze in the vehicle? And the guy's just like, okay. And so I ended up finding 3 bottles of tequila and a bottle of rum.
Yeah.
Luckily they were all unopened.
Yeah, right.
And so the guy's like, just put them in the bed and, in a bag.
Okay. Were you not 21?
No, I was 21.
Oh, okay.
I was freshly 21.
Well, then why would he ask that?
To see if we were drinking. Open container. Because
Gotcha.
Arizona is very strict about that kind of stuff, And coming back from Mexico, it's just prime picking for, drivers.
Yeah.
And so, I put all the bottles in a bag in the back of the truck. And it's hot as shit, in Arizona. We're in the middle of the desert in southern Arizona. And he's just like, hey, walk with me. He's like, have a seat in the vehicle. And so I walked to the bed. He's like, no, passinger seat. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, look, okay, this is good. And so I go around, I sit in the passenger seat, and, once again, I gave him my military leave paperwork and all that. And he's like, and so he has all the paperwork there. He's like, where are you stationed? And I'm like, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. He's like, oh, cool. He's like, what unit? I was like, oh, 327. And he's like, I was in 502s. Yeah, and like I still remember this whole conversation because it was great. And I was like, oh, no shit. And he's like, yeah. And so we just start bullshitting. And I was like, in Arizona, criminal speeding is 20 above the speed limit or anything over 85. Yeah. I think he tagged me at like 87 or 88. So it should have been a criminal speeding ticket. And so we bullshit for a little bit, and he's like, look, man, he's like, I'm just going to give you a verbal warning. He's like, slow it down. I understand you just spent time in Mexico, blah, blah, blah. And I told him I was on, we just got back. This is my first, block leave. And he's like, just be safe on the way home, blah, blah, blah. He's like, make sure you tell everybody in there I chewed your fucking ass. And I'm like, no problem, man. And so I get out, he gives me all my stuff. I get back in a vehicle, and I'm like, oh, I look all sad and everything like that. And I'm like fumbling paperwork, and he pulls off. He doesn't even wait for me to leave. He just pulls off. And they're like, what happened? And I'm like, fucking not a thing. Yeah, they're all mad. They're like, how? And I'm like, I don't know, but this is great. So we start driving again, and they're like, slow down. I'm like, I'm good. Like, I just got out of 2 tickets. Yeah.
And a verbal, they won't even know you got pulled over.
No, exactly. That's why I was just like, I'm good to go for the rest of this trip. And then, so we go drop off the other 2 people, and I'm literally turning a right into the neighborhood where I was living at the time, and I blew my water pump in my truck. And I'm like, thank God it happened here and not in Mexico.
Yeah.
It'd have been cheaper to fix in Mexico, though. Right. Yeah. That poor truck. The 99 Dodge Ram.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In Rocky Point, there's a thing called Competition Hill, and it's a sand dune that's massive. It's like 500-600 feet tall. And so I decided that my truck's going to make it up that. It did. It took a couple times because I had to drop air out of my tires and everything. I beat the shit out of that poor truck. But I learned a lot.
Well, I don't even remember what topic we were on here.
What's your go-to cigar cut?
Oh, yeah.
Somehow we ended up there, but
I found this. I was looking at for other things I did in Key West, and I stumbled across that picture and then got squirreled.
Yeah, I mean, cigar cuts, man, just do what you
personal
like.
preference.
Yeah, it really is.
Try them all for sure.
Yeah, I've seen some people post a lot of pictures lately of like a diagonal straight cut.
Yeah,
I don't get it. Like
I read something about that years ago that it in theory it allows the smoke to roll in your mouth because it's an angled cut, and so instead of all the smoke coming out of the cigar in one direction, it comes out either up or down or whatever. No, and I get it. I get it completely.
For the mechanical guy in me, the leaves are laid down in a way that are going to direct that smoke
one direction.
One direction.
That's where I was going to go with this.
Yeah, I don't. And I don't know how you would even tell if it's working or not. I don't know.
It's supposed to enhance the full. Like they went down this. I mean, it was a cool article, and then I tried it, and I was like, it smokes just like every other cigar I smoked. Yeah, but I mean, I was hooked on. I mean, I got a V cut right now on a regular Toro. I was hooked on a V cut for years.
Yeah,
and
I think for me, it's just a matter of like if I get tired of something, I go to something else for a while. It's not. I don't know.
I think for me, it more came down to the mechanics of the cutter. That Calibri V cut that we have on the website cuts so well.
Yeah,
that's what I just
and then you have a lot of straight cuts that don't cut very well.
And I think that's why I went with that V. But now that we found that Zycar M8, that all metal body cutter, thing cuts so smooth.
It cuts really well.
So. And I think that's why I'm back onto a guillotine.
Yeah.
But I have a V cut in my truck.
Yeah.
Like it's.
Yeah. We have every kind of cutter laying everywhere we are.
I have them in my.
I have 2 or 3 in my truck. I got 2 or 3 on my desk, 2 or 3 right here.
Yeah. I have some at home.
Yeah.
I have a whole drawer at home of just randomness. And then in my back patio, I have a V cut, a straight cut, and just a lighter that's been out there for like 4 years.
Yeah.
It still works.
Yeah.
And that's like if I forget to bring anything outside with me and I only bring a cigar, I have my selection right there.
Yeah.
On my office, on my desk, I probably have 30 cutters in there. All the ones we've tried, the random ones that I've gotten, the tabletop one, like.
Yeah, I use the tabletop one a lot.
Yeah.
It's very convenient.
But only for the guillotine. I don't like the V-cut.
It's too shallow on that.
And it doesn't, it might just be the way that my specific one is set up. But if I try the V-cut, it tears the cigar more than it cuts
it's because it's curved too. So it's like you get that very little edge that is ripping it kind of.
Yeah. But the guillotine, I like the guillotine, especially when you get it like perfect and it just like has this little like half moon shape into the cigar.
We need to order ourselves one of those ballers though, just to try. So
I got to use one at a show a couple of years ago.
I have never
prototype out.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It smoked like a mix between a punch and a V-cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it worked out really good. I like that one. I just like the mechanics of it. It feels really smooth. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes, but real quick, did some Googling and apparently the 45-degree cut is called the Dickman cut. And it's a lot of people, I guess, are specifically using that cut on torpedoes. So and it's
to get rid of the torpedo.
Yeah. But apparently it's supposed to enhance more flavors or something. But and try it out. See what
I don't know if I ever would have guessed that it was actually 45 degrees though. I would have gone a little shallower probably.
That's like literally it's like cutting along that vein line right there. That'd be weird. But I'll try it one day.
Yeah.
The next one comes from Will, who said he's new to cigars, and this was interpreted by me, I'm assuming is what he meant, but what's the best way to not inhale a cigar?
Well, we can cover both sides of that.
But his actual statements is best way to inhale
to inhale a cigar,
The best way to inhale a cigar is you've had to smoke probably 4 packs of Lucky Strike unfilters a day for 20 years.
And you're half pissed up on a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah. But not the good stuff.
Yeah.
Like bottom shelf. Like
Kentucky
the plastic bottle. Yep.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you don't fall into those specific qualifications, I would highly recommend not inhaling it.
Unless you're a firefighter in Dripping Springs.
Oh, or
Michael.
No, Michael. And then Mikey Fahey. He inhales a cigar too.
Does he?
Yeah. Not every single, he'll blow, it's like half of a drag.
So the best way not to is imagining you're drinking from a straw and you haven't swallowed yet.
Yeah.
Like you fill your mouth with liquid. It's the same thing. You smoke from a straw. You don't swallow. Don't inhale.
Yeah.
That's
a very good way of putting it.
I mean, I don't know how else to describe it, right?
Yeah. Other than that, it's just don't inhale. Yeah. just be like Bill Clinton.
He never took his out of the tube, to be fair. But
he also said he didn't inhale. That's where I was going with it.
Yeah.
Or is that Obama? I can't remember. One of them.
I think
Obama just said he used to smoke weed. I don't think he ever said he didn't.
Somebody said they didn't inhale. I can't remember who it was.
That was Clinton.
Yeah. He also said he didn't have sexual relations with that woman.
That's where the define is comes from, right?
Yeah.
Which is a legendary line. Can you define is? Actually, while we're on that topic, I know I struggled with it when I first got into cigars.
Yeah, that was Bill Clinton.
Okay. It was Bill Clinton?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Cool story, bro.
I know.
When you first
retrohale.
Oh, okay.
How would you recommend someone who's never done it?
So you get a mouthful of smoke.
Mm-hmm.
You let about 70 to 80% of that out of your mouth, and then you exhale through your nose, and it'll grab a little. And I think that's kind of how to do it. Or you could retrohale the whole thing. So you have smoke in your mouth, and then you just kind of push it out of your nose. You breathe out of your nose.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out somebody else's. Let's see. Basically, it means drawing the smoke in your mouth like normal, never into the lungs, and exhaling a portion of the smoke through your nose. And it doesn't even require smoke to fully exit the nostrils. It's just trying to get smoke into the taste buds or in the back of your nose.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if a how to.
I heard a really helpful tip from Tim from Cigars Daily.
Yeah.
And he said if you just take your tongue and just push it to the roof of your mouth.
Yeah.
And I was smoking a cigar at the time and did it, and I was like, holy shit. Like instant retrohale.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
well,
how I do it.
and the reason to retrohale, if somebody doesn't know, is that's like your olfactory is like all your flavor sensing taste buds and shit. Well, your taste buds are on your tongue, but a lot of what you taste when you're eating or drinking coffee or drinking wine or whiskey or any of that shit, right? A lot of the flavor you get is from your nose, from the smell of it. And so when you retrohale a cigar, that's when it just opens. There's a lot more flavors you're going to notice to a cigar other than smoke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you do that. And so it'll, if you've been a cigar smoker for a while and you haven't retrohaled, it'll open your eyes and, make your experience a little bit better. And, the first couple times you do it, it might irritate you a little bit, it might be uncomfortable.
Your eyes might water.
Yeah. But as soon as you get used to it, and as soon as that goes away, then you have the flavors that are there. And it makes a big difference. So,
okay, this is kind of cool. This article, so it goes in a little bit of detail about where and how everything, correlates in your brain. And it says we have learned that there are 4 to 6 basic tastes that the tongue can perceive: sweet, sour, salty, and bitter being the primary, and then the 2 more are fat and savory. The sense of smell is a much broader spectrum of flavor, quote, tasting qualities. This is why we experience a wide range of flavors with food. The same can be done and should be with cigars or wine.
or whiskey.
Or whiskey. Right? I mean, in theory, anything. There's a lot more. I'm not reading that whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember when, I was first told about retrohaling. It wasn't hard for me, but that's because I smoked cigarettes back in the day.
Yeah.
And if I'd inhale a cigarette, I would blow the smoke out my nose and my mouth at the same time.
Yeah.
And so that feeling was really easy to kind of recreate without inhaling.
Right.
But at first it was like, I take a drag of a cigar and I try to do the whole thing. And like this big puff comes out my nose and then I cough and
It's a lot.
everything
Yeah.
burns. My
Yeah.
eyes are leaking. And I'm like, it's good. That tasted great. But yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend inhaling cigars.
No,
I mean, if you do, more power to you. Like there was a guy, one of the master rollers at Placencia. That dude, every cigar that he smoked, and he didn't have a cigar in his mouth. He inhaled every single drag. And like, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
No.
He's still there.
Yeah.
He hasn't died from it yet.
But man,
Yeah.
like that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. But yeah, I mean, when we're blending cigars, like I don't always retrohale, but when you're blending cigars, almost every puff you're retro because you're trying to really figure out the flavors of that cigar. And so the blending days are, it's a lot.
It is. But I do it more often than I realize.
Yeah.
And every time we talk about it, I pay attention. I realize I do it almost every drag.
Right.
And I don't even know if it's because I'm trying to get all the flavor, the tastes out of that cigar or not, or if it's just a habit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Any other questions?
Yeah, the last one we've got, which we've gotten a few times on a few different episodes, is how do you infuse a cigar?
Oh.
I don't know. There's a lot of ways, a lot of techniques, I don't know the best way.
Oh, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. It's just not something we've done. It's not something I've cared to do. It's
I've played around with like some on just like 1 or 2 cigars at a time.
Yeah.
But never in like mass bulk. I mean, we've done some just as a project to see what happens. And they turned out okay. One batch. The second batch there was nothing.
Yeah. It's really weird.
And so, but we changed up what we were doing a little bit in it. And I think that's why there was nothing.
Yeah.
But I like the simplest way to do it is you take a cigar, you put a shot of whiskey in a shot glass, take the cigar and that shot of whiskey, put it in Tupperware, seal it, let it sit for 30 days.
Yeah.
Eventually that smell, that the aromas will infuse into that cigar just by sitting it, because a cigar naturally absorbs things from its environment.
You know, and I think there's some people that spray shit onto the tobacco.
Yeah.
You know, there's probably maybe that's a question for the next episode. Might have a little more insight. I don't know, but I don't know. It's not something we do a lot of. And I just, there's a lot of infused cigars out there, right? Like Drew Estates, for example, they have the acids and stuff. Yeah. But I think that's a very closely guarded secret as to how they do it that way.
Right. I've heard a couple of rumors about it.
Yeah, me too.
That some of them, they might sprinkle a little bit of pipe tobacco to get some flavor. Sometimes they use like food grade essential oils to get the flavor.
Yeah, I have no idea.
So, yeah.
But like how the process is, like for them, obviously it's a huge, I'm sure, you know, it's like in process. Right? Yeah. Because they do a lot of cigars. I don't know how they do it.
I'm picturing in my mind like a tarp on the floor and a whole bunch of like mixed filler tobacco just spread out on the tarp, and a guy with like a hose just hosing it down with whatever flavor.
I'm picturing the bunches going through like a machine with misters or something.
Well, the majority of infused cigars are mixed filler cigars. They're not long leaf.
Yeah. And there's a reason for that.
There is. I was just about to get into that.
Go for it.
Okay. So if you look at a tobacco leaf under a microscope, the edges of the tobacco leaf almost look like a hydrofoil parachute. They have like all these little blocks.
Well, it's all the veins from the leaves, right?
And so when you infuse a cigar and you add a flavor to it, they get absorbed the quickest through those edges into the leaf. Coming from the top onto the leaf is really hard because it has to go through that physical barrier of the actual, outside of the leaf. So the more cuts you have in that piece of leaf, the more those edges are exposed.
There's more edges.
Yep. Yeah. And the more that can get into the leaf quicker.
Yeah.
So if it's a long leaf, it only just absorbs around the edges of it. So the center of that leaf might not even taste infused at all.
Yeah.
Where if you cut it up in smaller pieces, it gets absorbed more evenly.
You know, like it's like trying to drink through the side of your straw, right?
It doesn't really work.
The ends work a lot better. It's, the same thing with the veins and the leaves. That's where all the water flowed through, all the nutrients, all that stuff, right? And so the more, if you cut your straw up into 100 pieces, like it's going to,
you can get more out of each individual piece.
So, but yeah, otherwise, like, the infused stuff it's not our bag. So, but that was the last question.
That was the last one.
All right. So, I think we might as well just wrap this up. We're going to take a couple hour pause and then go dive back into another one. Yeah. So,
cool. Well, there's a quick update for this one. But we're going to get ready for our next one, which is going to be a really good show. So stay tuned for next week. I'm not going to let any cats out of the bag of who we're going to have on. Yeah. But it's somebody representing one of the larger cigar companies in this industry.
Yeah.
And a
really good person.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So, that being said, well, I guess,
cheers.
Cheers.
With my coffee and your energy drink.
Yeah.
But go to warfightertobacco.com for all your smoky needs, and we'll see you next week.
Yep.
Bye, guys.